Hello, everyone. I am so excited. We have Madelaine joining us again today. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. I just love talking about this stuff.
I'm so glad that you could spend some time doing this because it's so important. And I know today's topic is postpartum rehab. And I think that many new parents think that postpartum has to do with mental health. Not realizing postpartum just means after birth. So, what we're talking about today really is after birth rehab. So, thank you so much for chatting with us about this today.
Yes, thank you. I am looking forward to diving in.
Good. I know that we think a lot about preparing for our baby, and we don't really think about how we can recover from a childbirth. So I think it's a really important topic to go over. And anyone who's listening and watching can go back and look at our other videos and podcasts with you, but certainly a really hot topic in terms of recovery. I know myself, 20 years later, I still suffer from some things that happened because of childbirth. And just in the last 10 years, there's been some attention on what I could have done way back when to not have what I'm having now happen. So I'm really glad we're able to provide this to our listeners and our viewers. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Before we get started, tell us who you are.
Yeah, so to everybody who doesn't know me, my name is Madelaine Golec. I am a pelvic health physiotherapist practicing out of Mississauga, Ontario, Canada, just in case somebody's listening in from outside of the Canadian borders. The beautiful part is, yes, I'm in Mississauga, but I do offer virtual services, which means I am now open to anywhere across Ontario over video. So that is amazing because now I can support, people who may not have access to services like this because maybe they don't have somebody in their in their town or in the local area. So I think it's amazing that way. So that's me. I've been doing this since 2014 and got into really focusing prenatal just when I got pregnant in 2015. So it was a very short window. I kind of learned the basics and then I was like, oh my God, now I'm pregnant. Okay, now I got to learn everything about pregnancy. And, it's really continued on because you said something that I heard over and over and over again, which is why didn't anybody tell me I could have done this sooner? Or why didn't anybody tell me that I was, doing my pelvic floor exercises wrong, or I was supposed to be doing them? And so that's really, really one of the key things that just stuck in my brain because it just kept coming up over and over. Why didn't anybody tell me? So now we're here to tell everybody about it.
That's great. Well, usually these types of things develop because of an experience we had personally, right? Both you and I have created our businesses out of that. So the fact that we have a passion for perinatal is definitely a labor of love for sure for both of us. So I love that you're offering things virtually now because certainly being in one city can be difficult when you have people that want to come and see you. So that's great. But you also told me that you started a few projects online that parents can do at their own pace. So can you tell us a little bit about that too?
Yes. Well, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, as the saying goes. So when I heard over and over, why didn't anybody tell me I could have done something sooner? I said, okay, there's a problem here. We're not getting this information out soon enough, right? It's coming after the fact, after, we've had our babies, whether that's weeks, months, or years after. And I said, okay, we need to get this information out sooner. So I started reaching out to prenatal, trying to prepare right during pregnancy for that labor and birth. And then that kind of gave us a little bit of a head start in that early postpartum. Clients would know sort of what they can do safely in that early postpartum. Then they would come and see me and then we'd begin the rehab process. And so I've been developing this now probably for 5 years or so. And I mean, I can only be with so many people in one day. So what I've done is I've created an online DIY birth prep program because I was spending 3, 4, 5 visits going over the basics of anatomy, where the pelvic floor is, what to do, how to activate, how to relax, and how to prepare the perineum. So I figured, what, if I could get people to learn the basics and start their exercises from the comfort of their own home at their own pace online, then if they needed to come and see me, we have a common language and I don't have to go over the basics. I could get right into the strategy, right into the rehab of the particular problem or the barrier for that client being confident in their own body. So I created an online birth prep program to try to alert people to get this basic knowledge so that you could come in and see me and we just get right to it.
That's right. Well, that's so wonderful. And you hit it on the nail. The whole I wish I knew before, dot, dot, dot. I have never heard that phrase so much as I hear it when it comes to pregnancy and babies. You hear it so much. There is not enough education and support and awareness for new and expecting families. So, it takes, we always talk about that village. It really does take a village. And now I'm telling families, if you're doing it by yourself, you're doing it wrong. Number one, you need the village, and Madelaine, you're part of that village. So thank you so much for being here. So today we're talking about postpartum rehab. And I love this because, again, we don't think necessarily once we've had the baby, all focus comes off of the birthing parent and now goes on to the baby. And through those first early months, things can go wrong because we're not paying attention. So tell me, what is sort of the number one complaint that you hear postpartum?
Yeah, so there's a couple things, and I'm glad we're chatting about this, but a lot of I see a lot of moms to be postpartum for things like the look and feel of their tummy. I know that, we sort of have this bounce back culture that society has sort of developed, which I don't think it's not a bounce. It's not a thing, right? There are specific physiological steps we need to take. We grow a baby for 9 months. We don't just like lickety split, bounce back, right? And what I find is, a lot of people are jumping really quickly. They get their 6-week clearance and they think, I'm free now to do anything and everything. The 6-week clearance is really more about, hey, medically everything looks like you're clear, you're healed, but that means it's okay to start some very specific light exercises to begin to build back the structures in a safe manner to help you get back to, let's say, high impact or high intensity interval training or whatever kind of activity you wanted to get back to. But there is a muscular rehab process that needs to happen that requires some time. So when you get that 6-week clearance, that doesn't mean go plank, for 5 minutes every single day. Like, please don't do that, because I'll see women come in and they've hurt their back or they've done something's uncomfortable. And then they're worried that they've done some damage or something. Right. So when you get the 6-week clearance, please get advice on what is safe and how to progress those exercises. So the tummy is is definitely a main concern. We know that there's an ab separation, everybody's going to have one. How it comes back is going to vary amongst different individuals. So supporting supporting moms in that rehab of their abdominal wall. Again, we want to do that safely and progressively. And also down there, right? So things like leaking, we see moms coming in and they're like, I can't hold my pee. Like, I can't stop. We don't
sneeze
recommend.
And laugh and it comes out.
Exactly, right?
Or
maybe they've attempted to have intimacy again with their partner and there's pain now, right? So these are things that we see in the postpartum period that, should be an alert to us that, something is not the way that it needs to be. Getting more specific advice on how to deal with those things is going to save you time and money, right?
Absolutely.
Better to get the advice versus sort of just waiting to see what happens, right?
Yeah. And getting it from someone like you who has expertise in this space specifically is so valuable, because I know, for example, the traditional sit-up is not really something that they don't suggest for you to do, within that first 6 months to a year, that there's alternative way of doing work on your belly. So reaching out to someone like yourself who's an expert in that, you can share with them different ways of targeting those areas they might be concerned about, whether it's down there, whether it's their belly. There's so much value to it. I can't stress that enough. But not, and no disrespect, but going to your doctor for everything isn't always a solution. There's so many other experts out there that can help you too.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to state very clearly, because there's a lot of information on the internet that says you can't do this and you can't do that exercise. And if you have a diastasis, you can't do this, that, or the other. There's no absolutism here. It is, can you and is your body ready to perform that particular exercise. I don't prescribe to the, like, you should never plank if you have a diastasis. It's like, can you do it appropriately, and is it the right exercise at this particular time, or is that something that we need to work our way up to, right? So a lot of women will be like, oh, well, I can never do this or that, and that's not true. There is a specific system of retraining those muscles so that you can get back to sit-ups if that's something you absolutely love, but we just don't recommend it like right away, you know
Right
what I mean?
away. So don't come home from the hospital and start doing sit-ups, basically, is what you're saying. Well, on that note, maybe you can give us a few tips. So 3 tips on how someone who just gave a baby and has the clearance maybe, or not has the clearance, so maybe we divide it in that way. Is there anything that they can do in the first 6 weeks? Is there anything that you would suggest after the 6 weeks?
Yeah. So, I've talked about this in our previous recordings, and I'm going to talk about it again, which is breathing. Okay. When we exhale, and when we exhale with our mouth closed, kind of like this, and then we breathe out all the way out, right? We try to empty out our lungs completely. In order to do that and get the air to come out of a small space in our mouth, we need to engage our abdominal wall. That is a great and safe way to slowly begin to engage your abdominal wall muscles with breathing.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That's simple.
Right? It's so simple. Now, I'll say that, like, if I see clients, I will oftentimes help them connect with their abdominal wall, specifically their transverse abdominis muscle, their deeper abdominal muscle. And so I'll usually get them to couple that particular abdominal wall exercise with their breathing. And it's very low impact. It's safe. It's so easy. You could do it while you're breastfeeding, or while you're feeding the baby, while you're laying down, while you're sitting, while you're standing. You can kind of do it anywhere. And it just begins to safely wake up the muscles. It's safely creating tension in the tissues so that when you're 6 weeks postpartum, we can then begin to maybe move into adding a little bit of tension with that particular technique. But I cannot stress enough, even if you don't know how to do the activate your transverse abdominis, just exhaling through your mouth with a small hole all the way out still engages your abdominal wall, because it has to kind of push the air out.
Oh, that's incredible. And families can do that early on. Parents can do that right from the beginning. That's amazing. What a good tip. Okay, that's good to know.
And, for the individuals who already know how to activate their pelvic floor correctly, I mean, there's like 20 different types of, I'm going to say, quote unquote, Kegels, i.e., pelvic floor muscle contractions. Okay. So there's different types. So for those who learn how to do them in pregnancy, can actually slowly begin to wake those muscles up within the first 1 to 2 weeks, depending on the grade of tearing and, stitching, and like if there's pain. But knowing how to do activations correctly prior to giving birth allows you the benefit of starting those same exercises in the early postpartum, because as a pelvic health physio, I cannot physically assess your muscles until at least 6 weeks has passed, right? There has to be healing that needs to occur. Well, most people will think about, well, I'll just see a pelvic health physio afterwards. In fact, knowing what to do beforehand allows you that window of starting those exercises safely in the early postpartum. So my tip would be, if you are currently pregnant, please get in contact with a pelvic health physio, learn how to connect to your muscles so that you can do those things early postpartum. And then once if you've had tearing, you want to wait until the stitches have fully healed. The best thing is to just start with something simple like walking, right? Nothing crazy, nothing intense. Just start moving your muscles. Jogging would not be the first thing I go to in the early 6 weeks. Okay.
Week. Absolutely.
Right. But walking, once things have kind of healed and the swelling has kind of come down and things are a little bit more feeling, I say, quote unquote, normalish, just starting with some really basic low impact, like going for a walk, is safe in that early postpartum.
That's good. And that's actually great for your mental health as well, as a new mom, to be able to get outside, go for a walk with your stroller and your baby, get some fresh air. That's a win-win in so many different facets of your body and your mind. So that's great. That's awesome. So first tip is a breathing with the closed lips. Second tip is the walking. And third tip was to reach out during pregnancy so that you can learn what you need to do during pregnancy and childbirth and postpartum. That's great. Oh my gosh, I've learned so much from you, Madelaine. Thank you so much for joining today. I do want to ask you before you go,
Yes.
something you wish you knew before, something you wish they told you.
Yeah. So, and this is something I see a lot of in the clinic, and it's one of the things that like I didn't really know or expect, and that is, you know, if you've given birth vaginally, there's going to be vaginal wall softening. Okay. When things stretch, when they kind of come back, they, you know, they do come back, the tension comes back, but it's never quite the same as it was pre-pregnancy. And I think, you know, when that happens, you know, things can kind of shift in their appearance. And I know that when moms kind of look down there and see things different, it can seem kind of concerning that things don't look the same. And you know, it's just something that does sort of happen that we want to be aware of. And it's the reason why we want to ensure that our pelvic floor muscles stay strong. Like, it's a normal thing to happen, but that means that we do need to do some rehab, okay? Because it can lead to pelvic organ prolapse, and there are different grades of it. And so we want to be really, really protective down there if we've had a vaginal delivery. And so again, that's something that like I didn't know that was going to happen, but you know, it's going to happen for anybody who gives birth vaginally. Things are going to be a little bit different, and the walls are just going to look a little different. But there's so much that we can do about it.
That's good. And I mean, hey, it's to be expected. You're having a human come out of you. Of course, things are going to move and shift and not necessarily bounce back. So
yeah,
absolutely. But I think it's so valuable that parents know. I wish they told us, because even though we work in this space with many, many patients and many clients and many families from all over the world, we didn't know things too that we wish we knew. So it's so important that we're able to share some of these things ahead of the game. And hopefully we're reaching out to a lot of pre and post moms and families that can get this information. So lastly, leave us with how they can find you.
Yeah. So Instagram is where my home is. I mean, I have a Facebook page. However, I am most active on my Instagram handle, which is at Madelaine Golec. I'm just going to alert you to go to the show notes to get the right spelling, because it's probably not the way that you think it's spelled. Sometimes I even get Melanie. So it's, I get at Madelaine Golec. So go to the show notes, get the right spelling. That is where, you know, I do lives and I post tips, and that's where you can find out about all my different free trainings and my program, and everything's there.
I love it. Thank you so much, Madelaine. You are doing so much great work in a space that is so needed. So thank you so much for joining today. And I look forward to having more talks with you. So anyone who's listening, if you've got questions for us, feel free to submit them either through the podcast questions, or you can email us, and you can get all that information in the show notes. And I'm so excited to have you today. Thank you so much, Madelaine. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.